Om Shri Sai Ram, offering our collective prayers at the lotus feet of Bhagwan Shri Sathya Sai Baba and our pranams to Sadguru Shri Madhusudan Sai. While youth around the world were forced to stay at home, when feelings of loneliness, anxiety, fear, and insecurity enveloped them, our beloved Sadguru taught us to connect back to that voice within through the Upanishads. This afternoon, we will have speeches from the youth of Region 3. The first speaker is Dr. Branimir Gonan from Croatia. Dr. Branimir is a qualified medical doctor and currently works as a business manager. Drawn to Vedic chanting, Dr. Branimir has been engaged in the study of Veda chanting since the year 2004. He is also the co-founder of the Veda Union, a network which seeks to make Vedas accessible to all who are interested. Dr. Branimir Gonan.
Om Shri Sai Ram. I offer my humble pranams and my love at the lotus feet of Bhagavan Shri Sathya Sai Baba, my Sadguru, my everything. Let him and him only think through me and speak through me so that his message is delivered through this instrument. Dear brothers and sisters, what incredible opportunity we've got in this life. What incredibly good fortune had brought us together in this life to witness His glory. I was often reminded of two words which Swami had been using commonly in his speeches. The first one is Shraddha and the second one is Saburi. Shraddha, or the unshaken faith, to me is nothing else but holding on to the truth and love. And the word saburi, patience or perseverance, to me is nothing else but holding on to dharma in these challenging times. So we see that all the human values are basically incorporated in those two beautiful words. So I pray that Shraddha and Saburi keep echoing in our minds and let them be manifested in our lives day in and day out until we reach the state of oneness with our core being. The state of oneness, Swami beautifully phrased in love all, serve all, help ever, hurt never. This should be our path, but this is also our goal. When we serve with our love, selflessly, we are getting rid of our attachments. We are offering all the fruit of actions at the lotus feet of Bhagavan. So when the goal is reached, we finally abandon all our attachments to the world. We are still connected to it through our love and service, but not attached to it. Dear brothers and sisters, I would like to share my experiences since the beginning of the current pandemic. It was in March 2021 when literally the whole world came to and stand still. All our activities, all our plans, all our business travels just vanished simply with the lockdown. So during this first month or two, I've had so many meals and lunches with my family members than ever. We would usually need a whole year to make up this number. We've never believed that this would ever be possible, but it happened. The materialistic universe as we know it stopped spinning, and on the other hand, the spiritual universe started to spin more and more as many various collective prayers started to be organized all around the world. Humanity united all the different tools in the sole quest of alleviating pain and sufferings of millions. Scientists, politicians, physicians, and us, spiritual member of the community, began contributing to the same goal, just like different colored glasses are brought together in a beautiful mosaic. What I've been experiencing during this period of time, I can simply depict as the power of collective sadhana. I've joined with my group and actively supported and participated in many collective prayers worldwide. And soon I was finding myself sitting in front of the computer, attending those Zoom meetings for hours, daily, day after day, month after month. So previously, my precious moments were when I was meeting my Veda group members at our in-person meetings and satsangs. So I had enjoyed the uplifting group energy generated from this unanimous chanting. I had never believed that online satsangs or prayers could ever replace in-person meetings, but it is now obvious that in a given situation they truly can. This was my personal transformative point. I've noticed that if the purity of intention is there, so the purity of the group intention is there, if the clarity of thoughts and the level of engagement is there, then this tangible feeling of unity and bliss is also there. And I keep on experiencing these beautiful moments together, attending Zoom online classes with my fellow members. I would like to give you an example of how Swami is truly using us and our powerful sound vibrations in regulating various crises. You may have heard that during the lockdown, my city of Zagreb was hit with a very strong earthquake. So just the day before, I was suddenly guided to organize 1008 Gayatri Mantra chanting with my group, with the starting time at 6:15 a.m. in the morning. So we all joined the Zoom classes and we started to chant. When exactly 6 minutes after the start of the chanting, the first wave of the earthquake hit our city. So after this initial shock or surprise, when I took care of my family and reassured that all of them are fine, I got back in my prayer room and continued with the chanting. And what happened next during the chanting was a very deep inner experience with Swami. He showed me very vividly that our act of chanting annihilated a greater severity of the earthquake and its consequences. I am ever grateful for this such a vivid insight. Yet another very important initiative started just before the pandemic took its accelerated course. Veda Union opened a new chapter by entering in the long process of learning of Durga Saptashati or Devi Mahatmyam. Many of the new chanters worldwide have joined this initiative. And it took us almost a year and a half to go through all the 700 shlokas, having minimum of 3 Zoom classes per week. Plus, we also cover certain introductory part and Rahasya chapters at the end. It is an incredible journey, and many people are now opening to the age of Devi, the beautiful, rising, divine, motherly consciousness. I was very happy when I heard Swami stated on Vijayadashami Day on October 15th that Sathya Sai Grama had seen the arrival of Devi, and thereby this place, Sathya Sai Grama, in the future would be very holy Shri Kshetra, where people from all over the world would come to seek the blessings. And yet another beautiful milestone happened on that very day. Shri Sathya Sai Veda Gurukulam was gloriously inaugurated by Swami. Swami has lovingly shared that this Gurukulam was the closest project to his heart, and he declared that it would grow manifold and continue for several hundreds of years into the future. So Satya Sai Grama, being Shri Kshetra, will also become Vidya Nagari, where the Atma Vidya, or the knowledge of the self, will also be shared, and all the people could come there and learn it. In conclusion, dear brothers and sisters, I sincerely pray to Bhagavan that he continues to guide us from darkness to light, from fearfulness to fearlessness, from the sound to the silence. May we internalize all the prayers and mantras that have been chanted to reach realization, mukti, and finally liberation, moksha. Om Shri Sai Ram.
Our next speaker is Sister Alessandra Craxi. Sister Alessandra was born in Italy and joined Swami's school in Ooty at the age of 3. She then completed her undergraduate studies at the Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, Anantapur campus. Sister Alessandra currently lives in Italy, works for an international company and organizes spiritual study programs, whilst also volunteering as a member of the Sanskrit team for Sri Sathya Sai Premamrutham Prakashana. Sister Alessandra Craxi.
My humble salutations at the lotus feet of our Divine Lord, respected elders and dear brothers and sisters of this World Youth Gathering. Since the past 2 years, the word pandemic has been resounding in all corners of the world, filling the lives of millions of fellow sisters and brothers with fear and anxiety. While on the other hand, many, many more that we can imagine, being receptive to grace and guidance of the Divine, in whichever form or language, have found the greatest opportunity to elaborate a clearer vision of what human birth is actually all about. With the arrival of the pandemic situation, the entire world began to feel a gradual suffocating grip of terror and anxiety. And what did our dear Swami do? He so lovingly embraced all of us like a mother does with her children when they are frightened of the dark, and began illuminating our hearts and intellect with the sacred truths of the Upanishads and of Advaita Vedanta. This spiritual distraction soothingly lightened the grip of that fear and anxiety and substituted it with the desire to follow the classes, reflect on the thought, and put it into practice in our daily life. Now let's take, for example, the explanation Swami has given of the Shanti mantra. Asatoma Satgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Dear Lord, lead me from the unreal to the real. Lead me from darkness to light, from death to immortality. Let there be peace, peace, peace. This sacred universal prayer is chanted regularly in spiritual gatherings, in the beginning or in the end of the auspicious ceremonies, during satsangs. I myself have chanted it 1,000 of times right from the tender age of 3, but its significance and meaning has grown into intensity and clarity only so recently. What has this got to do with the pandemic phenomenon mentioned before? Well, every single line of this prayer is an answer to the fear and anxiety the world is in prayer of today. Let's ponder only on the first line. Swami gave us a key to peace and serenity. Asatoma Satgamaya, from the unreal to the real. As Swami so often reminds us, chanting of mantras and prayers can give us solace only if we understand, reflect upon, and experience them. Asatoma, from the unreal, that which does not exist. Sadgamaya, lead us to the real, to that which exists. Well, what is unreal and what is real? Modern education and science teaches us that all that is seen, heard, tasted, smelled, and felt through our five senses, or even perceived by our mind through emotions like fear, happiness, sorrow, attachment, excitement, are real. That which can be measured, calculated, documented through any scientific methodology is real according to modern science. Is it so according to our great rishis of the ancient India? No, they reveal to us that that which is experienced through the five senses and perceived by the mind is unreal. That is exactly the opposite of what we think and we believe to be true. This is the main cause of all our suffering. It is said in the Taittiriya Upanishad, Brahman is that which words cannot describe and the mind cannot fathom. If Brahman is real and is beyond all sensorial and mental perceptions, does it not mean that all that we seem real for us become, because we perceive them with the five senses and our mind and intellect are unreal? Now, when we chant our prayer to the Lord, asking to be led from the unreal to the real, what are we really asking for? We are asking to be led to know our true self. Call it Brahman, call it the divine, God, awareness, universal light. Its name is not important. And here we have the meaning of what we are praying for. But have we started reflecting on the unreal in our daily life? Has our prayer acquired major significance because we know and experience what we are asking for? And here comes into play Swami's guidance on how a prayer should be chanted. Know its significance, reflect upon it, and more of all, experience it. A combination of our spiritual effort and God's grace is the actual answer to any prayer. It is true that most of us cannot see as unreal what we perceive through our five senses, and most of all perceived through our mind and intellect, the emotions that we live in our daily life. Happiness and beauty are so real. Fear, anxiety and sorrow even more. I almost lose my breath when I experience them. How can I say they are unreal? We have an answer in the Kathopanishad, chapter 2, verse 1.1. The self-existent has rendered the senses so defective that they have outgoing tendencies, and hence man beholds the external universe and not the internal self, the Atman. But some wise man, with the desire of immortality, with eyes away from sensual objects, sees the Atman within. And in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, verses 34 and 35, Arjuna says to Lord Krishna, "The mind is very restless, turbulent, strong and obstinate, O Krishna. It seems to me that is as difficult to control as the wind." And Krishna lovingly answers, "O mighty armed one, without doubt, the mind is restless and very difficult to restrain, but it may be controlled by constant practice and non-attachment." Yes, brothers and sisters, the senses are defective, for they move outwards, and the mind is restless, strong and obstinate. The solution given to man by the sacred scriptures is abhyasana, constant practice, and vairagya, detachment. Dear brothers and sisters, everything seems difficult when we start working on it, but constant practice, detachment, and the grace of our Lord will render every single step towards ourselves easier. Just like the little toddler finds it difficult to take his first steps, and with the help of the loving mother and constant practice, walking becomes natural. So shall it be for all of us, from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. Now, I just picked a single line of a single prayer from a single lesson taught using these months, and we already have a path to tread on that takes us towards peace and serenity. Putting into practice even one single teaching at a time has been and will free us from fear and anxiety. How many more teachings are packed in the long sessions Swami dedicated to humanity? We can choose any of them, brothers and sisters. Our loving mother so skillfully distracted our attention from the cause of discomfort to a process of enhancing our spiritual progress. What love in abundance! What grace for the entire humanity! My heartfelt gratitude to our loving Lord for this unique and only distraction we can permit ourselves in this life and in all the lives to come. Om Sai Ram.
Our next speaker is Brother Marios Sufas. Brother Marios hails from Greece and, having studied in London, is currently a partner at the Sufas and Associates law firm in Athens. For many years, he has been actively engaged in various seva projects and holds a prominent role in the Greek foundation called Sharing, which aims at promoting Swami's mission of love and service in Greece. Brother Marios Sufas.
Dear Swami, dear brothers and sisters, we offer our humble pranams to the feet of our beloved Master. The theme of this World Youth Meet is the pandemic lessons within and without. And when I first contemplate on this theme, I can refer to two sayings of our beloved Lord about the pandemic. The first one is that we all share a common karma and that we cannot complain about COVID-19, whether some are vegetarian or not. We all have to go through this. And the second and more important one is that we have a bigger pandemic, which is the pandemic of hunger, and we should all strive to face it together. So when I first heard about the pandemic and the relevant restrictions, my first thoughts were that my life wouldn't change in a big or small way, because in any way we weren't going out. So this was a great opportunity for us to meditate more, turn inside, contemplate more, and read more of Swami's teaching. Meanwhile, Swami has provided us with his spiritual teachings of Upanishads, Master the Mind, which are really astonishing. And up until this day, I read and I read again and again and again. And I pray that one day these videos are printed and shared among us, so that we can contemplate and read more on them. By doing this in my life during the pandemic, had the result that I was more calm, more happy, more loving, more close to Swami. So my suggestion is that whether it's a pandemic or not, always go inside, always meditate more, contemplate on Swami's teaching, and this way we will be better persons. As far as the Greek Seva team was concerned, during the pandemic and the first wave, things hadn't changed much, and the Greek team continued to provide fresh food during these times to all the people in need and some organizations. But during the second wave of the pandemic, the Greek team thought of different ways to serve. So we thought that we should come in contact with many more organizations, see and search for more needs that people had, and this we did during this period. And we now have an array of organizations and needs that we are striving to help and serve. And this has been a great advantage for us with Bhagavan's blessings. And secondly, and more importantly, we thought that we could stop for a period serving fresh food, and we placed in big boxes dry food and big quantities of dry food. And by this way we covered not only the daily needs of our fellow beings, but also their long-term needs. So this was also a great idea that we had during the pandemic. And my view is that with Swami's grace we can surpass any obstacle, we can achieve anything, and always go within, whether it's a pandemic or not. Thank you, Swami, for your blessings. Thank you, Swami, for your guidance. Let this pandemic be an opportunity for us to be more devoted to you, more loving to you, more loving to people, have more faith in you. Sai Ram.
Our next speaker is Sister Mallika Mahua. Sister Mallika is from Kazakhstan, where she works as a teacher in a school. She has been with Swami since 1998. She will now share her thoughts and about her journey of transformation with all of us. Sister Mallika Mahua.
Om Sai Ram. I offer my humble pranams at the lotus feet of our beloved Bhagavan. There is a saying, the best life lessons are learned during hard times, which truly describes the situation humanity has been facing during the global pandemic. Because of it, people changed their priorities and started finding simple joy and happiness in the little things. Therefore, a hug now feels more life-affirming and a smile more heartwarming. Moreover, individuals realize that we all depend on one another, and when one part of the system breaks down, the whole humanity suffers. The current situation has also shown that life is a present, and living in the present without attachments is the key to happy life. Taking a personal reflection, I would like to admit that at first isolation sounded impossible and hard, but over time Swami revealed that it is a blessing in so many ways. First and foremost, having given Master the Mind discourses, our beloved and compassionate Father, let us see that the greatest obstacle in realizing our divinity is the mind, and so that the mind should be mastered by non-stop practicing and by switching from external world to the inner one. It made me asking myself, is it really me arguing with my siblings, or why do harsh words hurt me? Following Swami's guidance and asking for help from Viveka and Vairagya aided a lot. Secondly, Rise and Shine youth satsangs were amazing experience as we learned from each other by discussing and sharing transformation adventures. Due to the increase of socially vulnerable people during the pandemic and this period, the weekly feeding seva has been organized. So being a part of this volunteering process made me more selfless, loving, and caring. These alterations were noticed by close people. In conclusion, I would like to highlight that everything mentioned above has been happening only by Swami's divine grace. Thank you, Swami, for giving that opportunity to play a tiny role in your divine drama. Jai Sai Ram.
Our next speaker is Brother Sevdojan Sergey. Brother Sevdojan Sergey is currently living in Switzerland, where he works in the medical field at a residence for senior and disabled individuals. For many years, he has been involved in organizing various service activities and sadhana projects in European countries, such as feeding and taking care of the destitute and serving the homeless and disabled. Brother Sevdojan Sergey.
Dear Swami, respected elders, students, and other Sai brothers and sisters, loving Sai Ram. It's almost 2 years of this pandemic, and we all had a tough time without coming to Swami's ashram, without meeting our beloved Sai brothers and sisters from other countries, without celebrating together Swami's birthdays and Mahashivaratris. And Swami, in form, is far away from almost all of us, but he is giving now another lessons to dive inside in our hearts and to experience him, his pure nature, his divine love inside our temples, inside our bodies, inside our relatives and people who are around us, to feel his service in every act which you are doing. And before he was just cooking food and serving, and now it's time to digest the spiritual food, different dishes, different spiritual practices, and to put it in practice, to put it and to just get all the fruits of flowers of divine love and divine wisdom inside our heart, inside our consciousness. I remember I had a dream. Swami appeared in my dream during this pandemic, and we were just traveling with our Sai brothers and sisters all around India. It was like a tourist just journey, and we were enjoying all the beautiful places. But suddenly I was going in near just a road in India in my dream, and I just saw inside the house, inside one room, Swami was lying on the bed, and Sai Baba was really lonely, was really unhappy, and I came to see what's going on. I just rushed inside this house. I went through the nurses, and then I came in this room in which I saw through the window that Swami was lying in the bed. And just in this room somebody was lying, and I was seeing only his back. And then he turned and looked at him and looked at me, and I realized that it was old man, which it was not physically Swami, but inside it was Swami. And this man needed our care, our help, and it was very much related to what I do, because my job in Switzerland is taking care of ill and old people in a residence for senior and disabled people. And suddenly I realized that it was a time just going all around and following Swami and asking him to come. I was asking him to come to my country, to my house, to my job. And suddenly he manifested himself there. He was always there, but just he manifested himself. And he said, now I came in the form of this person who needs your help. And Swami says that it's like two different kinds of manifestations of God, of incarnations. It's like Lakshmi Narayana, God who is coming, who is full of divine qualities and powers manifested, and everybody wants to serve him. And another, it's Darindra Narayan, and this form of God, it's the form of an ordinary people. We just need our help, of homeless, of disabled people. And Swami said that we should concentrate, and serve mostly Darindra Narayanas, mostly the form of God which really needs our help. And in this form, Swami is praying for help. Swami is waiting for our help. And we just now have had to concentrate on those who are around them. And during these pandemic times also many people just lost their jobs, also had different situations, and with health, with everything. So we have endless opportunities to serve, endless opportunities to show our love, endless opportunities just to transform our lives, our hearts, just our minds, fill ourselves with divine love, because it is the same as filling ourselves with Swami. So it is a time of transformation, individual transformation and also transformation of society, because we cannot end pandemic just in a small city, small community, just because we have to do it all together. All countries unite together to fight the pandemic, to just different countries united together to find the vaccine, to find the medicine. And it is an example for us from Swami that we have to unite. We have to unite, we have to serve as a cells of divine body, and we have to get this divine love within and spread it. So it is a time of transformation, of manifestation, not only the information, because we have all the information. Now we have to realize it, we have to put it into practice. And I had so many experiences that Swami himself showed that he is in every person which I'm serving. And I had also a COVID patient, and I was praying to Swami, please don't let in our senior residence, don't let anybody from our patients get this virus. And Swami just helped, and nobody got inside from the patients COVID in these 2 years, even though it was open for public. So it's really a miracle. I remember also the time when I had a dream and we just appeared in a remote place for Buddhists for meditation. And it was a place where you can meditate just outside, not connected with the society. And Swami appeared and said, it was very important the previous time, but now it's time to go together, to unite ourselves within and without, and to work together, to serve together, to do sadhana together, and to reach unity, to reach purity. And unity and purity together gives us divinity. So now it is a path and to our goal. And I ask Swami to bless us, to protect us, and to express himself through us. Thank you, Jai Saram.
Our next speaker is Sister Janvi Asnani. Sister Janvi was born in a Sai family and she was raised in Dubai. After marriage, she moved to the Netherlands with her husband and currently works for the Philips online shop as a global process expert. Sister Janvi Asnani.
Most loving pranams at the lotus feet of our dearest Lord. Greetings to all the brothers and sisters around the world. Sairam. Swami always used to say, the time to do good, the time to realize one's own divinity is now. But it's never registered so strong as it has given the current situation. The pandemic has really made me realize the value for life. Because never before a young person who has not even crossed the age of 35 would be forced to think, what if there is no tomorrow? What if this is all the time I was given? What did I do with my time? What if I die tomorrow? What would be the impact I have made with this gift of life that I was given? In the prime of my youth, recently being married, no responsibilities, no restrictions in life, in an interview, I was so fortunate. I was able to ask Swami, Swami, please let me be of some use to you. Let me be part of any seva activity you feel fit for me. Swami at that time had said, have a child, that is the best seva you can do. Reluctant at such a young age, I was fortunate yet again to be in another interview where God reminded once again that I have been tasked with a responsibility and it was not yet done. Anyways, I convinced myself even without thinking about the purpose, the emotion, the feeling. And we were blessed with a baby boy. What a joy. But what have I done with my life so far? And now with this new feeling of motherhood, I feel so much immense love for my child. So I start thinking about his future. I collect for my child. We also have this culture where we save money under the pillow in case of some uncertain misfortune. So I've saved for his education, I've saved for a medical emergency, and I've even gone that far thinking that I want him to have a nice wedding, so I've saved for his wedding as well. And by the way, he's only 3 years old. But while I was doing all of this planning, the pandemic has hit us. Swami also addressed the global situation. But while he addressed the most talked about topic right now, he also brought our attention to the already existing crisis. Children not even making it to their first birthday due to malnutrition or curable heart disease. And that is when I've just realized how foolish I have been all along. And while watching this message on my TV, I cannot stop thinking of the pain of that family, that pain of that mother who is not able to do anything to save her child. It has always been there, but now for the first time, perhaps because I am also a mother now, I am able to feel what she must be feeling. And maybe Swami, being our divine mother and father, also feels the same way, and this is the first time I feel how Swami must be feeling given this situation. And now I'm at a point in life where I would give all my resources, even if it just helps one child, even if it makes the difference of that world to that one mother, to that one family. Because what is the difference between mine and hers? It's the same love. It's the same motherhood. It's the same love which is the common thread which is now uniting everybody. And it's not motherhood only. It's the empathy which takes over in all parts of life when we start thinking, how can we make a difference? Swami has graciously blessed us to be part of the Fiji hospital, which also focuses on children with heart disease. And to be honest, this link with children has been our inspiration, and at least my emotional connection. And I'm ready to now go above and beyond for a project like this, because only I can feel the mother's pain. Perhaps I couldn't have felt it before without being a mother myself. But in these times, it's not only the positive spark, but personally also there have been a lot of challenges. Now, in explaining your actions in these difficult times, people around me think of me now as emotional fool, going into extremes, because for some people it might not make any sense to take the additional risk to continue some seva activities or even start new seva activities in this time. But while we stopped all social activities, we kept within our own small family and we found our way to keep ourselves company. But at the same time, there was this sinking feeling that there are people just below my residence on the streets in a homeless shelter whom nobody is thinking about. The last Christmas, we could not travel due to the travel restrictions, so we kept within ourselves. But we came across this idea of distributing gifts to the homeless shelter. Everyone in our organization helped create some goodie bags, which included some woolens, some warm stuff, something to make them happy, some sweets as well, and we labeled this activity as Gift of Love, because we really felt that at this time there was a need which was just going unnoticed and nobody was doing anything about it. So while we created these goodie bags, we collected them, but there was nobody there to actually distribute these gifts, to go and physically hand them over. So here I am standing at my door with a trolley full of decorated gifts, thinking to myself, should I go or should I not? The corona cases are at the peak at this time, and even after following all the measures from the government, what if something happens? So now I can put all the theory I have learned from Swami into practice at that doorstep. Swami had said, when in doubt, always follow your dharma, your duty. So I knew I had to go because he said, good is greater than God, and this goodness will actually protect me and my family. So I had to make sure that the seva activity continues. And at this point I remember, and I would like to quote Swami, he had said, start the sacrifice, start the seva first. Don't worry how you'll do it, how these things will come, who will help you, how you will proceed forward. Don't have such fears. With complete faith in the power of goodness, in the power of selflessness, do sacrifice for others' sake, and everything else would follow. So with complete surrender, with trying to battle my own fears, removing all hesitations from myself and also from people around me, we completed the seva activity. We gave the gift of love and actually got only love back in return. The residents of the homeless shelter felt so happy. The feeling of cared for and sharing the love and the joys of the festival was evident in simply their expressions. They expressed their heartfelt gratitude through their words, and they also wrote me some handwritten letters of appreciation. One letter even read, you are thinking of us like family. And she explained and even sent abundant blessings for my child. What more I could ask for? So I feel now that life is too short to hesitate. Now is the time, even more than ever, to let this power of goodness shine, to be confident and simply plunge into any opportunity we get to make the difference to mankind. We all can use the virus as an excuse, like how I was doing, to collect resources in fear of an uncertain tomorrow. But it can actually become a reason to detach more than ever and really help those in need. So now, if I give everything away to the mission or to the homeless shelter, who is going to take care of my child? Who is going to take care of my family if I give all my resources away? I guess we all know the answer to that question. So, while Swami is taking care of me and everybody else who is part of these seva activities, I would just like to conclude with a prayer to Swami to help us get on the right path, no matter how difficult the situation gets. Help us keep this spark alive in our hearts, to be wanting to make a difference and make us feel a little bit more God within us and see a little bit more God around us. Sai.
Our next speaker is Brother Arjun Dogan. Brother Arjun hails from Turkey and works as a finance analyst. He has been part of Swami's mission since the year 2010, and today he is one of the core members of the group in Turkey. He has been serving as the youth coordinator for Turkey since 2018. Now let's hear Brother Arjun Dogan.
Sairam to all my brothers and sisters. Today I would like to share a few thoughts. Thank you. The pandemic that started almost 2 years ago brought many changes to everyone's lives. The new world situations forced everyone to stay at their homes. It made everyone go over their lifestyles and habits. Every single person on this planet has been forced to go within and face with themselves. Everyone had to see what their minds have to offer to them. And yes, as a result, no one liked what they saw within themselves. Many of us have never thought in our minds that such a shaking phenomenon would happen. Nevertheless, the universe had other plans for us. Since we are all at the verge of the new golden age, this pandemic came as an entrance exam for all of us. It came to us so that we should go within and correct ourselves in any field we need. It came to us so that we should be ready for the upcoming Premamrutham age. It is the age of silence and inner connection. And our Sadguru, in all those years, has been teaching us about nothing but that we should learn how to go beyond the level of the mind and enter the realm of the heart, the realm of silence and unity. Yes, the pandemic is upon everyone, but the experience of this global phenomenon for each person is so unique, and so is mine. The pandemic saw the emergence of our Sadguru's Master the Mind series. As being in the Vacha team and working in the translations and editing of Swami's books, we gladly took this as a duty for ourselves and wanted all the Turkish devotees to hear about our Sadguru's new divine messages. Yes, all the physical activities of the trust came to a halt, but translations actually never stopped. Every day a new speech was coming out, and each member was working on one of them. The messages were so powerful. As we translated them, we also practiced them. As we practiced them, we saw so many things in ourselves to correct and change, and we shared all of these with ourselves. Well, that 1 month spent with the translations and the practice of the Master the Mind's theories brought to me a new consciousness, and I believe to many of us. It definitely woke up something sleeping in me up until that time, and I believe in most of us the case is the same. Furthermore, during these several lockdowns, many people had to leave their jobs and offices, including some of my relatives. Then it struck me that today I might be having the necessary opportunities to help others, or I might be earning my livelihood without a problem, or at least without the fear of losing my job. But tomorrow the situation may go otherwise, and I might end up having nothing at all. Therefore, this pandemic was a great reminder for us, for me, that we should help all those in need during these difficult times more and more. We should at least try to ease their sufferings or give them what they lack by being supportive to them and making them feel that they are not alone. During these times, personally, I tried to do all that I can for my relatives in need and also contributed to an online governmental aid program in where we could donate some amount of money for the daily needs and the utility bills of some poor families and people in need, mostly who had to leave their jobs. We couldn't go outside apart from our jobs and give them physical support, but through these aid projects, personally, I try to do what I can, while of course still I have the means. There is one prayer that Swami shared last year. Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kashit dukkamapnuyat. Let all be happy, let all be healthy, let everyone see what is auspicious, let no one have any sorrow. Last year, sometime at the beginning of the global pandemic, Swami gave a discourse within which he emphasized the importance of chanting of this mantra and how it was vital to keep chanting for the benefit of the whole universe. Swami specifically mentioned that in his divine discourse, as most of us were staying homes globally, chanting of this mantra would be the most beneficial help to all those who were suffering everywhere in the universe. And he repeated the same in several other discourses too. I believe it is a really, really powerful mantra. Well, therefore, I try to keep repeating whenever I remember. And we are also having regular weekly online Veda practices with some of our Turkish devotees. Since the beginning of the pandemic, along with the opening Ganesha prayer, we all together chanted this beautiful and powerful mantra at the beginning of every session. And we also had several satsangs upon its importance, and which I believe raised our consciousness until today, because it's a really powerful mantra. When things are smooth and when we are comfortable with ourselves in life, we easily forget all others as we dive in the matters of the world and ourselves. Though we do seva, we may occasionally fall into the forgetfulness of our real purpose of doing all these works. And if we chant the whole Vedas, it may not ring a bell for us. That is where we need an alarm clock. That is where the world needed an alarm clock. A spiritual reminder of our real purpose, or something to awaken us from this occasional sleep. And as we all put our best efforts to keep this spiritual feeling alive within ourselves, this pandemic has been the alarm clock for me, and I think for most of us too, for the world, I believe. So this pandemic gave me a great insight, an urge to turn my gaze within for the ever-existing quest of finding the real identity and the most intimate connection with the self within. In most of his discourses, Swami emphasized that the time to connect within and have all the conversations only within ourselves is upon us. He invited all of us to his innermost residence, and surely that is what an avatar's true mission is, to transform us within. I cannot deny his voice within me, guiding me at every step and making his presence apparent in me. I feel him, I feel this connection, and my connection with him grew stronger since the last few years, I can say, as he showed me how to listen to my heart and follow it accordingly through my experiences. But in this pandemic, many extra activities and useless things have gone out of the picture, so we could focus on ourselves more. And through this period of shifting up and through Swami's intense practices, I felt this existing connection coming to a more powerful, to a more peaceful and more silent place. Today I'm feeling much freer, feeling free from many things compared to before. And everyone can assess themselves for themselves. The level of our peace, the level of our happiness shows the level of our spirituality. Yes, striking things are happening to us, to everyone, such as this pandemic. But how quickly we get back to our place of balance shows the level of maturity of our spirituality. Therefore, everyone can do the math for themselves, whether this pandemic made us greater or not. But I believe this introspection is one of the biggest lessons of this global phenomenon. Thus, ending with the same prayer, may all realize their true identity and enjoy the bliss of God within. Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kashchit dukhamapnuyat. Jai Sai Ram.
Our next speaker is Sister Uma Chibba. Sister Uma Chibba is from the UK. She has also been a Balvika student from a very young age. May we now invite Sister Uma to share her thoughts with all of us.
I offer my most humble salutations to the lotus feet of our beloved Swami. My name is Uma, I'm a student, and I live in London with my grandparents, parents, and my older brother. When lockdown started, I was 13, so I was in year 9, and I am now in year 11, which is one of the most important years for students in England because it's the year I'm sitting my first public exam. I still remember the first time I heard about the coronavirus. I was in school and it had entered the UK and cases were rising rapidly. People were, quite sensibly, panicking, but I think deep down I was okay. I knew that whatever was meant to happen would, and I reminded myself to have faith in Swami's master plan. This mindset would come in handy later on in lockdown, when there was a crisis about what would happen to students doing exams who had missed out on so much education. Pretty much all aspects of my life began to get uncertain at this point, and I slowly got comfortable with the unknown. I think constantly worrying about the future became exhausting after a while, just because it was so unpredictable, and eventually surrendering came naturally to me. But I also think that lockdown was a harsh reminder of the law of karma. Seeing my friends lose their parents and seeing numbers of deaths and cases climbing up and hearing stories of people who were less fortunate than me helped to put my problems into perspective and really appreciate how blessed we were. In some ways, it was the first real thing I've ever experienced. It gave me a reality check. I live a very sheltered life, I have good schooling, and I was born into a family who are devoted to Swami. I don't think I see much suffering. It was also a reminder that not everything is forever. I think before the pandemic, family members seemed invincible, and I gradually got used to the idea that nothing was permanent, and people would come into my life and they would leave, and I would have to be okay with that. I did enjoy my time with my family during lockdown, however. I spent time doing things like cooking in the kitchen with my grandma and mum, learning how to make dal, and trying to convince my brother that the haircut I gave him looked good. Although I was spending even more time with my family during lockdown, the person I was spending the most time with was myself, which I had never really done before. I used to always be around friends, around outside influences, but lockdown was the first time where I had the opportunity to leave all of the distractions in my life and properly try and focus on my spirituality and make it a priority. I made time to meditate. At the beginning of the pandemic, going to the mandir always felt like a chore to me. I found myself often making excuses like, I'm too tired, I'll do it tomorrow, or I'll be late to wake up for online school. Looking back on this now, I realise that this was a big mistake. I think that being in the position to seek spirituality is a privilege in itself, one which I abused. I think what it was is that I used to find meditation uncomfortable. I was scared of not showing any signs of improvement or just not being good enough. But somewhere along the way, detaching became a necessity to me. The world was always changing with so many things going on. Meditation became a constant. It went from something I dreaded to something I looked forward to, something that brought me peace. I only managed to do about 10 to 15 minutes a day, but progress is important no matter how little it is. To say that I was 100% spiritual throughout lockdown would be a lie, however. Seeing people close to me suffer left me with a lot of guilt, and sometimes I would feel angry towards God. How was it fair that so many people were dying and suffering? Why would God do that to people? My faith would fluctuate at times. I found it hard to understand why God wouldn't help people if he had the power to. I struggled to see what could possibly justify being able to help people in desperate need, but not. I used to think that karma was easy to understand. Everyone gets what they deserve, whether this be good or bad. It's only until you see someone that you love suffering that you begin to question it. It's hard to look at that person and not feel upset for them and see that they deserve something that is causing them to suffer. It's difficult to put your emotions and your bias aside for people and look at it from an objective point of view. I think that it's important to try and find a balance between being careless and cold to being too involved, as both sides can lead to problems. Like Swami says, it's important to be in the world, but not let the world be in you. Taking this into consideration, I eventually realised that whatever happened was for the best. I think I was always told this by external forces, like my parents, to just trust Swami and his master plan. But this is the first time that this trust came from within. I understand now that all of the drastic events we saw take place, and the ones we are seeing currently, need to happen. If viruses, floods, or supply shortages are what we need to push us into spirituality and help us self-realise, then that is what will happen to us. I think a comforting thought is that we will all get there in the end, be it this lifetime or another. But it's important to remember that we also have to put the effort in ourselves. Although we are still in the pandemic, everything has opened up again. And aside from wearing masks and getting people vaccinated, things seem relatively normal in the UK. But as Swami has said before, this is not the end of it. Lots and lots of change has to happen for us to enter the golden age, and so much more is to come. I think there will be a time where everything we think we know will be questioned, and the only thing that we will be able to rely on is the constant, unchanging, omnipresent divinity that lies within us all. Everything else has to go to make way for which is real. Distance from Swami has made me look inside myself. I think that is what unrest in the world does. When the temporary illusion begins to crumble, we turn to our permanent inner divinity, and I think in the years to come, this will be the only way to find peace within the chaos. Thanks to the pandemic, I'm learning to remain unaffected amid the confusion, and use this chance to try and remain focused on the Swami who resides within. After all of this is him and his way of awakening himself within each and every one of us. Thank you for this opportunity to reflect, and thank you for listening. Sai Ram.
We thank our dear brothers and sisters from Region 3 for sharing their experiences and learnings during the COVID pandemic. It is said that life is full of testing times, but we must have the courage to withstand them. And our brothers and sisters have indeed developed courage, ensuring that they have continued to follow the path of love and service as promulgated by our dear Sadguru. Sai Ram.